2 weeks. That is all that stands between Arsenal Football Club and what could be the greatest night in their modern history. The Champions League final is on the horizon. The Premier League title is within touching distance. And right now, as this analysis goes out, the stories surrounding this football club are coming in thick and fast from every direction. There is a PSG star who walked off the pitch in the 27th minute with what looked like an injury. There are transfer rumours swirling around players coming in and players going out. There is a 16-year-old talent Arsenal have already made an offer for. There is a goalkeeper who may be leaving permanently. There are words from players inside that dressing room that tell you everything about the mood in this squad right now. And there is a manager who took one look at a half-empty Emirates Stadium years ago and decided to change everything. This is not one story. This is the full picture. And by the end of this video, you will understand exactly where Arsenal stand right now on and off the pitch ahead of the most important fortnight in this club's recent memory. Welcome to Melissa, Arsenal analyst. Let us get straight into it. Before we go through everything in detail, let me be direct about what is at stake here. Arsenal are 2 games away from winning the Premier League. They are 12 days away from the Champions League final in Budapest against Paris Saint-Germain. Every injury update, every transfer rumour, every word spoken by a player or manager right now carries enormous weight. If Ousmane Dembele plays in that final fully fit, Arsenal face one of the most dangerous wide players on the planet. If he does not, the dynamic of that game changes significantly. At the same time, Arsenal have their own fitness concerns, and in the background, the summer transfer window is already being shaped by decisions being made right now. This matters. All of it matters. And that is exactly why you need the full picture. If you want this level of detail on every Arsenal story as it develops, hit that subscribe button right now. This channel breaks down the analysis, not just the headlines. Now let us go through everything. The Dembele situation, let us start where the tension is highest. Ousmane Dembele, Paris Saint-Germain's key attacking weapon, was substituted just 27 minutes into PSG's League One clash against Paris FC on Sunday evening. He went straight down the tunnel. No celebrating with teammates, no warming down on the pitch, straight down the tunnel. Sky Sports Football confirmed this, describing it as what appeared to be an injury just 2 weeks before the Champions League final against Arsenal. Now, here is where it gets interesting, because within hours of that substitution, the information coming out of France was notably calmer. French journalist Guillaume Haro reported that Dembele had suffered a simple muscle strain and that Luis Enrique had brought him off purely as a precaution. The suggestion was that he should likely be fit for the final. And then PSG coach Luis Enrique himself spoke publicly. His words were clear. He said, and I am reading this exactly as stated, I think it is just fatigue. What we are saying today is just speculation, but I do not think it is anything serious, and there are still 2 weeks left. So let me give you my read on this situation. There are 2 realities running side by side here. The first reality is that Dembele left the pitch in the 27th minute of a league game against Paris FC, which is not a top-level opposition match. If this were purely fatigue management, you might wonder why he was not simply rested from the start. The fact that he started and then came off early is the detail that makes this slightly more concerning than PSG would like to admit publicly. The second reality is that PSG have a 13-day break before the Champions League final. Luis Enrique's squad is confirmed to be in a careful minute management phase ahead of Budapest. Key players, including Marquinhos, Warren Zaïre-Emery, Vitinha and Ivica Kvaratskhelia, all started that game, suggesting PSG were taking it seriously. Dembele's starting was part of that plan. His early exit disrupted it slightly, but the coaching staff are projecting confidence. The situation for Arsenal is this. Mikel Arteta will be monitoring Dembele's fitness closely over the next 2 weeks. Because Dembele is described as a player expected to be central to the 2025 Ballon d'Or conversation, and losing him would be a massive blow for the defending champions. Arsenal fans will be watching every update carefully, and they should be. Because if Dembele is fully fit in Budapest, Arteta will need his defensive structure to be equally sharp, which brings us to Arsenal's own fitness concern. Jurrien Timber is pushing to be available for Arsenal's final matches. The Dutch defender was spotted arriving at London Colney on Saturday ahead of the team's training session before facing Burnley. The direction of travel is positive, but whether Timber is fully fit and available for the Champions League final remains to be confirmed. That is the honest position right now. Mikel Merino's return. On a more positive injury note from the Arsenal camp, AFTV and Daily AFC reported that Mikel Merino could return to the squad for the Crystal Palace trip following a long-term injury. The quote from Daily AFC was straightforward. There is a possibility that Mikel Merino could return to the Arsenal squad to travel to Crystal Palace after a long-term injury. This is significant because it means Arsenal could have an experienced central midfield option returning to the squad in the final weeks of the season. Whether Merino will have enough minutes to be considered for the Champions League final squad is a separate question. But his availability, even in a limited capacity, gives Arteta more options at a moment when the squad needs depth. The timing of this potential return is important. Arsenal are in the final stretch of 2 competitions simultaneously. Every fit body matters, and Merino returning from a long injury layoff, even gradually, is a welcome development. Arteta's words and the atmosphere around the club. Now, let us look at what has been said publicly by the people closest to this squad, because the words coming out of Arsenal right now tell you a great deal about where this group mentally stands. Mikel Arteta was asked about whether Riccardo Calafiori could switch flanks to play on the other side. His answer was measured and analytical. He said the sample size is so small that it is very difficult to judge a player based on limited minutes. He referenced Thomas Partey being used as a fullback, explaining that there were good moments and difficult moments in that experiment. He also mentioned Declan Rice playing in a fullback role against Brighton and being exceptional before a different performance elsewhere. His conclusion was precise. The sample is so little, and it will remain so little until the end of the season. The balance to find is whether the cost of moving a player out of their natural position outweighs the benefit. This is Arteta at his most honest. He is not closing the door on using Calafiori differently, but he is also not committing to anything based on insufficient evidence. That is the mind of a manager who trusts his system and is not going to rush decisions at the most critical point of his tenure. Arteta also spoke about goalkeeper David Raya in terms that were genuinely glowing. He said, and again, I am giving you the exact words here, what David has done for us in the last few years, I think it is incredible. It is incredible. His journey, it is incredible. The way he has matured, the way he had to earn things. This is a manager who values character as much as ability. Raya had to fight for his place. He had to earn trust. And the fact that Arteta is speaking about him in these terms right now during the final weeks of a title challenge and ahead of a Champions League final suggests Raya is in the best possible headspace heading into those games. His goalkeeper is confident, trusted and ready. Then there was another remarkable moment from Arteta. He admitted that the atmosphere at the Emirates Stadium deeply affected him when he visited as Pep Guardiola's assistant at Manchester City, just days before he was appointed Arsenal manager. He described 50% of the stadium being empty and said it really got into him. He spoke about rebuilding everything from that point and said seeing the transformation and the joy in the fans is something beautiful to watch. This is not just sentiment, this is context. Arteta came into a club that had lost its way, its identity and its atmosphere. The fact that he is reflecting on that early experience now as his team stands on the verge of a historic double shows a manager who understands the full arc of what has been built. He knows where they came from, and that makes the current moment even more meaningful for him. Piero Hincapie speaks. New signing Piero Hincapie gave 2 interviews that are worth paying close attention to. In the first, he spoke about Mikel Arteta as a person and a manager. His words were straightforward and sincere. He said, from the beginning, he has always been supporting me in everything. It is a new league, a new experience, a new club with players of a very high level, and he is always there to help us at all times. This is exactly the kind of culture you want to build inside a squad competing for the highest honours. A new signing arriving into one of the most demanding environments in European football and immediately feeling supported. That does not happen by accident. That is a result of the culture Arteta has built. In the second interview, Hincapie spoke about the possibility of Arsenal completing a historic double in his first season. He said, I feel the excitement too for the club. On a personal level, it is also important that in your first season you become champion. It would bring an immense happiness and be crazy for me too. He added that reaching a Champions League final and being 2 games away from another Premier League title is a very nice moment for the club. He spoke about happiness in the dressing room and desire to win everything, but stressed the importance of going game by game and step by step. The detail that stands out in what Hincapie said is this. He described a lot of happiness and desire in the dressing room. These are not the words of a squad that is nervous or distracted by the magnitude of what is ahead. This is a group of players that wants to go and win. That mentality at this stage of a season is everything. Gabriel Martinelli and the question of who leaves. Now let us address one of the more uncomfortable conversations around this squad. Former Arsenal captain Mikel Silvestre was asked which players he thinks might leave the club in the summer, and he pointed directly at Gabriel Martinelli. His reasoning was detailed. He said Martinelli might be the one who wants to trigger a transfer because of game time. He is a Brazil international who wants to play, and Leandro Trossard gets more game time than him. Sylvester added that Martinelli has been at the club a long time and might be looking for a new challenge. He said leaving after winning the league would be good timing. Now, this is a rumour in the sense that nothing has been confirmed. Martinelli has not said he wants to leave. No club has officially approached Arsenal for his services. But Sylvester's analysis is worth taking seriously because his logic is grounded in footballing reality. If a player of Martinelli's calibre and international ambition is not getting regular starts, the summer becomes a natural moment to reassess. Sylvester did add one important caveat. If Martinelli were to leave, Arsenal would need a replacement. And in his view, outside of that potential position, he does not see an obvious area where Arsenal currently need to go and buy. That is a significant observation. It means the primary transfer priority this summer in Sylvester's assessment is directly linked to what happens with Martinelli. The transfer picture incoming, Arsenal's summer business is already taking shape behind the scenes. Let us go through each development clearly and separate confirmed interest from rumour. Starting with Bradley Barcola. Daily AFC reported, citing French publication L'Equipe, that Arsenal are in the race to sign Paris Saint-Germain winger Bradley Barcola, who is 23 years old. The Premier League is described as the most likely destination for Barcola, with Liverpool's interest having cooled. This is at the rumour stage. No offer has been confirmed, no deal is agreed, but the direction of interest is clear. My read on this, Barcola is a left winger. He plays for the club Arsenal are about to face in the Champions League final. If Arsenal are genuinely interested in him, the timing of that final adds an interesting layer. Arteta will see Barcola up close in one of the most high-pressure environments in football. That is real-world scouting at the highest level. Next, Ander Baranekse of Real Sociedad. This is a player Arsenal have extensively scouted this season and were impressed by. He is 24 years old and predominantly a left winger who likes to come inside to create. He can also play as a 10 or out on the right. He has been compared to Antoine Griezmann for his style of play. His numbers this season are 5 goals and 4 assists across the entire campaign, which is modest. But at 24 years old, the view appears to be that there is more to come. The complications here are significant. Real Sociedad are determined to keep him this summer. He is contracted until 2030 with a release clause reported to be £65 million. Chelsea, Manchester United, Tottenham, Aston Villa and clubs from Germany have all been monitoring him alongside Arsenal. This is not a straightforward deal. Arsenal would have to pay a significant fee, compete with multiple rivals and potentially go up against Real Sociedad's determined resistance to sell. This remains firmly in the rumour category. But the level of detail around Arsenal's scouting interest suggests this is a genuine target and not just noise. Now, Jurrien Timber. This is the most immediately actionable piece of transfer news in all of the information available right now. Arsenal have presented a compelling offer to the representatives of Jurrien Timber, who is 16 years old and currently at Leicester City. If the player accepts the offer, Arsenal would then need to agree a compensation fee with Leicester City. This is important because it shows Arsenal are acting early on young talent. At 16 years old, Monga is a long-term investment. But the fact that Arsenal have already made an offer to his representatives shows they are serious and do not want to miss out on a player they clearly rate highly. Karl Hein leaves permanently. Moving to an outgoing player, Arsenal goalkeeper Karl Hein appears to be heading for a permanent departure this summer. Werder Bremen officials want to activate the purchase option for the 24-year-old Estonian international. The reported fee is €3 million for a permanent transfer. Hein is set to become Werder Bremen's first-choice goalkeeper next season. This is not a rumour in the traditional sense. The language here is that Bremen officials want to activate the purchase option, which suggests the mechanism is already in place from an existing loan agreement. €3 million is a modest fee, but for a goalkeeper who was never going to displace David Raya at Arsenal, this outcome makes sense for all parties. Hein gets regular first-team football at a Bundesliga club. Arsenal free up a goalkeeping position and generate a transfer fee. And Bremen get a keeper they already know and trust, Gabriel Jesus and AC Milan. One of the most significant potential outgoings concerns Gabriel Jesus. AC Milan have contacted Jesus and his agents to understand his availability and interest in a move this summer. Milan have made contact in the last 48 hours at the time of this reporting. Jesus is described as one of the concrete names on Milan's striker shortlist. Sources suggest Jesus would be open to a move to Serie A, but he wants an important contract and an important role in the project. The crucial detail here is this. Arsenal hold the power in this situation. Jesus has a contract with Arsenal that runs until June 2027. Arsenal would need to decide whether to let him leave this summer, and their asking price will be a major factor in whether any deal happens. This is not simply a case of a player walking out the door. Arsenal must agree to it. Whether Arteta views Jesus as part of his long-term plans is a question the evidence does not definitively answer right now. But AC Milan making direct contact in the last 48 hours shows this is a live situation that will develop through the summer, bringing everything together. Let us step back and look at the full picture of where Arsenal stand right now, because the combination of all these stories tells a very clear story about a club in transition, momentum and careful planning. On the pitch, Arsenal are in the best position in years. They are 2 Premier League games away from a title. They are 12 days away from a Champions League final. Their dressing room, by the words of Piero Hincapie, is full of happiness and desire. Their manager, by his own account, has been quietly building toward exactly this kind of moment ever since he stood in a half-empty Emirates and felt the weight of what needed to change. Jurrien Timber is pushing to be fit. Mikel Merino could return to the squad. David Raya has the complete trust of his manager. And facing them in Budapest is a PSG side with genuine uncertainty over Ousmane Dembele's fitness, even if Luis Enrique is publicly dismissing it as fatigue. Off the pitch, the summer transfer work is already underway. Arsenal are looking at wide reinforcements because of uncertainty around Martinelli and Trossard. Barcola and Baranexia are both on the radar. A 16-year-old from Leicester City has already received a formal offer. Gabriel Jesus' future at the club is genuinely uncertain. Karl Hein is likely to leave permanently. And Gabriel Martinelli's situation has attracted commentary from a former club captain about the possibility of a summer exit. The evidence suggests Arsenal are managing this moment with precision. They are focused on the final weeks of the season on the pitch, while simultaneously ensuring the business of squad planning for next year does not wait. That is the hallmark of a well-run football club. There is one final thing worth saying. Mikel Arteta described the transformation of this football club as something beautiful to watch, and he is right. But what is equally clear from everything discussed in this analysis is that the transformation is not finished. The ambition inside this club is still growing. A Champions League final, a Premier League title race, transfer targets already identified, players whose futures are uncertain, a 16-year-old already being offered contracts, a goalkeeper being trusted completely, a new signing already feeling at home. This is a club that is not standing still. And with 12 days until Budapest, everything matters. Stay with Melissa, Arsenal analyst, for every update as it develops. Like this video if you found the analysis useful. Subscribe if you want to stay ahead of every story surrounding this football club. And share this with any Arsenal supporter who wants the full picture rather than just the headline. The final is 12 days away. Arsenal are ready. Let us go.